Welcome back. It's been a while since I've seen you all. Sorry for my absence, but video essays are hard to make, and I don't think a lot of you were sitting around and like waiting for me to drop another one. But I am here. And I have a microphone now, so hopefully I sound better. I'm not sure how to use it, so we'll see. I did also get a couple of comments, like, on my last two video essays, kind of just seeing what I think now of the current arc, so here you all go if you were waiting for that. I'm back, and I'm making another video on Pin because I sensed a disturbance in the air. Once again, the tides have turned, and the popular thing is to hate on my precious baby girl. And honestly, I think a lot of this backlash comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of her character, which is understandable. I feel like whenever new episodes come out, there's a general crowd that seems to be hyper-focused on the information we get at any recent point, while ignoring everything else that has previously happened, which is usually fine, but when it's a prequel like BFDIA, it's kind of treated like the most present retelling of these characters. Now, this script went from getting scrapped when Teapot 16 came out because of her unfortunate and unfair, in my opinion, elimination, to unscrapped and reworked with the release of BFDIA 18, so, you know, spoilers ahead. Now, before I get into this, I am giving the same disclaimers as I did for the last Pin video, so if you're coming into this with a fixed mindset, I'm definitely not going to change it. Also, I'm not defending Pin's actions here, like, at all. I'm just here to offer insight because a lot of people tend to get Pin's character confused. So, I knew this couldn't last. The grace period of everyone finding Pin okay and tolerable has unfortunately come crashing down with the release of BFDIA 15, and has now only gotten worse as more episodes are released. To recap, up to BFDIA 14, Pin is acting brash and unlikable and generally being a pain in the butthole after her face was returned and her body back to normal size, which are assessments I do in fact agree with, but I don't necessarily think it warrants the amount of backlash she's getting, and here's why. Pin is someone who's arguably gone through one of the most jarring changes throughout BFDI history, and this is something that up until now I have to keep reiterating and digging up old episodes for comparison. But with BFDIA's comeback, it gives those of us who keep up with this series something that I don't think we've ever really had before. It gives us, or at least gave us, a simultaneous look into the two different Pins, and the difference is kind of night and day. To get back on track, the reason I don't necessarily think all the backlash given to Pin, or even the backlash to the way she's being written, is fair is because, well, this is just who Pin was. Pin was aggressive and petty, a far cry from her more subdued personality, explicitly showed in Teapot and BFB. Genuinely, I think that people turning on her just forgot the fact that before whatever personality transformation she had, she was just a generally nasty person. Sure, in BFDIA, she had that little grace period where she seemed more like that Pin that locals seemed to enjoy, but she was also getting tortured to no real end. Side note, it's really frustrating to me how Pin just can't win sometimes with the audience. She oscillates between being liked and hated in Teapot and BFDIA. It's as everyone is on her throat for one wrong move. And she was also getting the most likes when she was literally being tortured, which is kind of fucked up. To really understand Pin in BFDIA, we have to look at Pin in BFDI, which chronologically is the season that is supposed to come before BFDIA. And well, I've talked about this in my last video of Pin, so I'll let her take it away. Don't actually watch that video, please, it's really bad. Now, in this video, I make a lot of claims.
Going back to the original season of BFDI, Pin was vastly different from her more recent iterations. She was pretty imposing and rude, and because of this, she was eliminated pretty early alongside most antagonistic contestants. But like I said earlier, I think it's very implied that she just realized that nobody really liked this about her.
As of now, these claims I make are unsubstantiated. There's a huge blank gap between BFDIA and IDFB where Pin mellows out and becomes the Pin we know today. this is a canon shift. What isn't canon is exactly why Pin goes from high-strung to relatively chill, and that's what my analysis is attempting to explain. And I'm aware, like last time, that the next episode could come out and it turns out Pin was replaced with an evil clone of herself in the underworld, and a real, timely, faceless, limbless Pin is still missing. But at the same time, Pin gives a lot to work with, and it's easy to at least try to guess where they're taking her. Now, with this in mind, I think my working theory still makes a lot of sense, that Pin after BFDIA is actively embarrassed and not happy about who she was, and that's why her nastiness and villainy seems to be amped up. In some regards, Pin's villain arc makes a lot of sense. After constantly being the butt end of punishments and abuse, it's honestly pretty fun to see it all crescendo to the moment where she essentially loses her grip and has an astronomical crash out. Her hatred for all things free smart is so potent that it bleeds onto the people that haven't technically wronged her, like Book. Her insistence on clinging to the fact that Book didn't let Ice Cube come swing with her seems more like an excuse to keep up her unfounded vitriol towards her. And I love that. Pin's anger towards Book of all people is especially unfair, and it's very clear she isn't in the right. Actually, I find that Book, whether intentionally or not, is sort of like a foil to Pin. Essentially, she's the inverse of her. I think a lot of people forget that Book is also kind of being treated poorly in BFDIA, not even counting the fact that she's been on a 4-time losing streak at this point. But Pin seems to manifest this struggle with anger, while Book just doesn't. She lets herself be walked over and puts her alliance above her own well-being multiple times over. In fact, we see in BFDIA 18 that she's actually a very kind individual. While everyone else is flipping each other's switches, she sees no downside to switching everyone else's on.
Now no one will be able to turn off my switch. And while we're at it, now they're all taped together.
Sorry, Ken. Oh, why are they all taped together?
You can't turn on one without turning on everyone.
Oh, okay. Might as well spread the love.
But I say they're the inverse because while Pin eventually gets better, Book goes through her own regression in BFB. Like Pin, she essentially sabotages a lot of relationships. Why? Because she feels she's standing up for herself. Like Pin. Pin and Book at some point in their lives take the wrong approach to what they believe is right, which makes their conversation in BFB pre-split all the more engaging, and probably drops some foreshadowing as what's to come. And that's why Pin should have given her token to Book when she was eliminated, not that ugly, disgusting man, but it's fine, it's cool, I don't care. Not to go on a tangent, but all I'm saying is if you're a Book fan and you're mad at Pin, that's your cousin, okay? But reeling this back for a second, I think a big part of the reason this backlash towards Pin is unfair is because her story is being told in a non-linear fashion. When this episode came out, I, as a huge Coinbit fan, was asked how I felt about this tragic and heartbreaking scene where Pin ditches Coiny for the win.
Wait. Ah! Oh, great. Pin, help me up. Pin? Pin, you can't leave. I recovered you. I got your face back. I dug to the center of the earth for you!
And the honest answer is, fine. Don't get me wrong, I love drama and angst, so this scene in particular I was sat for. But people being so genuinely aggressive towards Pin, sometimes in such an uncomfortable way, I kind of wonder if they're even paying attention to the show. You guys, you know they're happy and in love again in IDFB, right? Considering how little we have left of BFDIA, that's a shorter time frame for them to make up. The same goes for Book, arguably the person she's being the nastiest towards. They're fine, and they're on good terms after this. So the two people she's wronged the most are fine with her later on, so how about you guys, calm down? The anger and hate towards this girl boss has honestly been insane. Also, Coiny canonically loves BFDIA, so I don't understand why you're so angry at Pin when he's the idiot that insists that it was amazing and cool and he wants to live in the past. So I think if you're mad on Coiny's behalf, he would literally hate you for that. But getting back on topic, I think undeniably something that Pin really wants, especially in BFDIA, is to be well liked. That's why that swinging incident seems to keep coming up, at least in my opinion. BFDIA tends to do this thing in its later seasons where we recontextualize scenes written early on. A big example of this is the Fiery Leafy arc, which is essentially treated as the cornerstone of everything that happens after the first season. The swing set scene that Pin keeps bringing up seems to have, like, traumatized her, and it's probably because that was her way of reaching out to people, and then she got turned away.
Hey, Finn, I have to go. Huh? Sorry. Hey, you two, do you want to swing with me? Well, that sounds fun, but we're going to Match's dance party right now. Oh, I would not go there if I were you. Match is a real meanie. Pin, I've already made up my mind. We're going. What about Icy's mind? Huh? Has she made up her mind yet? See, that's what I thought. You're making decisions for Ice Cube without letting her think for herself. Honestly, I think Ice Cube would love to come swing with me, but you have to control her every move. What? That's nonsense. Ice Cube is my friend. I would never admit it, Book. You are suppressing Ice Cube's rights and should be ashamed of it. Ice Cube is a person too, you know. You should let her do what she wants instead of what you want. You are a filthy, self-absorbed, unloving, dirty little... Oh, well, then...
And obviously, not saying Book and Ice Cube were in the wrong for this, because they were also being manipulated by Free Smart at the time. But if I put my analysis cap on right now, I think the reason that resonates with Pin so much and why she constantly keeps bringing it up is because that was a genuine attempt from her to turn over a new leaf, as it were. She tries to make up with Bubble, and then turns to Ice Cube. Her feelings towards Book, as it is implied in the narrative, all stems from the fact that she stood in the way of Pin's honest attempts to be better. Well, I think that's implied anyway. I'm not actually sure if that's it, but I don't want to say, like, this could be it, and people are gonna be like, yeah, that's obvious, so I'm just saying. And maybe that's why that's where she is right now. It's clear now, Pin's power-hungry rampage has led her to prioritize winning above the people that she's close to, so I'm very curious on how the rest of the episodes pan out and how the consequences of the fallout with Coiny will affect her. So if Pin's up for Elimination X and she's still, like, a pain, maybe don't dislike her. You don't have to like her either because I don't think she deserves that, but she's really interesting and cemented as, like, the villain of BFDIA now. I don't really want to say this because I'm afraid it'll age poorly, but I guess I'll do it anyway. I would love for Pin to make, like, Final 3. I know it's far-fetched, but ideally she'd carry on being a power-hungry monster and, like, maybe keep being a challenge beast right up until the finale where she could realize the power of friendship means more to her than winning. It also lend more credence to Pin's line in Teapot 16 because it implies she gets very far in BFDIA. So... how about you all, like, relax? Although, all you Pin haters, like, seriously take a water and maybe watch some BFB pre-split with Pin because I promise you, her villain arc here is not that serious. She gets better. Also, Fries does a lot worse to people, just saying. I don't see this kind of hatred towards him.
And you know what? I want to add that whenever someone defends Pin, it seems to get conflated with the notion that it automatically means Coiny and Book are in the wrong. I've seen takes from people essentially insisting that it's a black and white situation and you're either Team Pin or Team literally everyone else, when no. Take it from me, someone who is a huge fan of Book and was rooting for her to win in BFDIA 18, you can understand where Pin is coming from and still sympathize with the people she's terrorizing. Don't let these people trick you. You have room in your heart for everyone. I think if I had to think of a conclusion or something to draw away from this, it would be to relax on Pin. You can feel bad for the people she's wronged without hopping on the little hate bandwagon starting up again. And am I biased? Yes. But that shouldn't stop you from having a profound takeaway. I guess if you can't like Pin at her worst, then you just don't deserve her at her best.